Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's first update. So we're doing the July month ahead forecast for today's first update. Later on, as always, on a Saturday, we'll have a look at the week ahead with week ahead forecast. That'll be coming up this afternoon. And then late this afternoon into this evening, we will have Just for Fun Can Sip Saturday, which has a look at the potential, no more than that, weather during the next 6 months. But this is the July month ahead forecast. We're going to have a recap on June's weather before we get on with the July forecast, and at the very end we'll have a sneak peek at August. So before we get on with the July month ahead forecast, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse widgets, click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. So the June forecast was for a significantly warmer than average month. We thought around a degree and a half to maybe up to 2 degrees warmer than average. So a very warm June was predicted, with a fair amount of fine weather as well. Now, the temperature has come out warmer than average for this June, but I don't think it's really correct in terms of our forecast, because we was expecting a fairly dryish sort of month with a lot of anticyclonic weather, and it hasn't turned out like that. So although temperatures have come out warmer than average, I'll show you the temperature in a second, I'm not really all that pleased with the June forecast. So the actual Central England temperature comes out at 15.2. It's just updated from Hadley. It comes out at 15.2. That's around a degree above average, so it has been quite a warm month, and it's the warmest June actually since 2010. So it's been 6 years since we had a June as warm as this. However, we've achieved it really with just warm nights, lots of cloud, damp weather, quite windy at times as well through the month, and that's kept the minimum temperatures up on the high side. It hasn't felt that warm to me by day, because had a lot of cloud this month, been one of the dullest Junes for a very, very long time. And of course, when it's raining also, it's quite a wet month, that makes it feel pretty cool by day as well in the summer. So a bit of an odd month really, although the temperatures come out around a degree above average. Generally, it's been a pretty damp, dreary, not very inspiring June, and the GavsWeatherBiz.com forecast for June was for a better month than this. We thought that the temperatures, above average temperatures, would be achieved mostly by high pressure, bringing sunny, warm days and that kind of thing. I don't think we've had a heat wave at all during June. So yeah, it's been a rather strange month, and I'm not sure the GavsWeatherBiz.com forecast June went all that well. However, we shall persevere and crack on with July. So we're going to start off with the 700 millibar height anomalies from the CFS V2 model. And this is it. This is 700 millibar height anomaly for July. You know, with these charts that yellow, orange, red extrapolates high pressure and blue to low pressure. So what the CFS wants to do is place this ridge out to the west of us, and do something a bit like this with the jet stream. So actually, although it doesn't really show it, there is a trough within the 500 millibar flow across many western and central parts of Europe. It wouldn't be all that wet a month because we are close to this area of above average heights in the Atlantic, but it's a fairly coolish month being signalled here, with the driest weather probably in the south and the wettest weather in the north. The temperature anomaly backs this up. It is coming out cooler than average here across many western parts of Europe. Actually, the UK is largely close to normal, but the idea is generally that much of the west of Europe looks cool, or cooler than average, with the warmer than average conditions in the east and the northeast, and will probably also be in the southeast of Europe as well. So a pretty cool month being signalled there from the CFS V2, but drier than average. And the reason, of course, is that the ridge is placed just to the west of us, which means that the jet stream goes something like that, and it means that we shouldn't have too much in the way of rain-bearing systems coming in off the Atlantic, although there would be weather fronts dropping down from the north and west of times, of course. But it does seem quite a dry month. I'm not sure about that. That might be a bit over the top, actually. Have a quick look at the Beijing Climate Centre. These are 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into 10-day periods. So this is the first 10-day period from the 1st through to the 10th of July. This places quite a deep trough to the north of the country. The ridge is further out away from us, out to the west, which means projection is coming through the country. That's more unsettled, really, for the first 10 days. There would be rain-bearing systems moving through the country on that sort of a setup. And then the next 10-day period, this goes from the 11th to the 20th of July. That also places this trough over the country, the ridge, which, remember, CFS wants is very close to us, just to the southwest, but the Beijing Climate Centre has it much further away in the central Atlantic, which again means the jet stream does that. So not only do we go onto the cool side of the jet with Beijing Climate Centre, we also find that it's quite unsettled as well, with a trough of low pressure very close to or even over the country. And even into the final 10 days, this is the 21st through to the 30th of July, it does look quite unsettled. The trough is weakening, but it's still generally there around the north and west of Europe, with that ridge still sort of centred in the Atlantic or in the central Atlantic. And again, the jet stream still doing something like that. So the Beijing Climate Centre does imply quite a cool and unsettled month, I think. Taking the 30 days as a whole, this is the 500 millibar height anomaly from the Beijing Climate Centre from the 1st through to the 30th of July, and it looks unsettled, with a trough of below average heights really centred around the northwest of Europe, ridges in the central Atlantic, and the jet stream is doing that kind of thing. And the temperature anomaly, that comes out cooler than average. So both the CFS and the Beijing Climate Centre are in agreement for a largely cooler than average month, certainly for the west of Europe. The CFS is close to average for us, but Beijing Climate Centre sees it cooler than average for us. But both of them sort of agree, really, that it's a pretty coolish July coming up. And the precipitation, now this is a big difference between the Beijing Climate Centre and the CFS, because the Beijing Climate Centre is going for a significantly wetter than average month, whereas the CFS is going for a significantly drier than average month. And the reason for that difference, remember, is that the CFS is placed in a ridge just to the south and the west of us, just in that sort of area, which protects us from the rain-bearing systems largely, whereas the Beijing Climate Centre is placing that ridge along a lot further away in the central Atlantic, which means that the rain-bearing systems come down across the country via a jet stream aligned northwest to southeast. So a little bit of a discrepancy there in the broad pattern expected, with the Beijing Climate Centre certainly looking a lot more unsettled compared to the CFS. They're both pretty poor with the temperatures, just that the CFS wants to have the ridge close to us, albeit still centred to the west, whereas the Beijing Climate Centre has it much further away, and that means we have a much more unsettled month. So I think we've got pretty good agreement on a fairly coolish month, so I'm not going to go for above average temperatures again this month. I think we're going to go a bit below average perhaps for July. Quite a few warmish Julys over the past few years, but I think this one's likely to be cooler than average, possibly by as much as around half a degree or so. So I think we could get quite a coolish July. In terms of precipitation, it's very difficult because it's a subtle difference, but it's an important difference between these two models. What I suspect will happen is we may have a two-way split through the month. So the early part of the month, I think, is likely to be very unsettled. I think the Beijing Climate Centre's got that right up to around the middle part. And then we may transition to something a little bit drier as we get through into the second half. And there could well be a northwest-southeast discrepancy here as well, with the north and west tending to have quite a lot of wet weather, coming out wetter than average, with the jet stream, of course, off the Atlantic, bringing rain-bearing systems. Whereas the south and east, although there will be bands of rain coming through at times, I would suspect the south and east tends to get a slightly drier month. Maybe not drier than average, but slightly drier in the southeast. So overall, with precipitation, I think the north and west probably comes out wetter than average. The south and east probably close to average. And there's a two-way split with the wettest conditions in the first half, the driest conditions in the second half. Temperatures generally look quite cool, I think, coming out a bit below average. And just have a quick sneak peek at August, and this is what the CFS V2 is showing for August in terms of 700 millibar height anomaly. It has a ridge over Scandinavia, which potentially could give us some drier and warmer weather. If we come over to this side of the chart, less Scandinavia, and potentially that could turn the winds into the east. Easterlies in August are going to be quite hot because they're coming in off the continent. But what we have to watch out for there is low pressure undercutting. So the jet stream could be doing something a bit like that, which would mean we have low pressure coming in from the Atlantic, and also potentially coming up from the south, and that could be thundery, of course. When you get high pressure over Scandinavia in the summer, one of the things you have to watch out for is thundery lows being generated across the Bay of Biscay and pushing northwards. So it could be quite an interesting pattern, actually, in August if that comes off. But we'll worry about that when we get to it. Finally, coming back to GasLowBiz.com, July month-ahead forecast. We are going for a cooler than average month with a lot of Atlantic-driven weather. Generally, wettest conditions in the first half of the month, driest in the second half. I think the north and west of the country comes out with a wetter than average deviation or anomaly for the month. The south and east probably close to average, and actually the final week or so, maybe a couple of weeks, could be quite dry down in the south. So that's how it's looking. We'll evaluate as ever when we do the next month ahead forecast and see how we did. In a few hours, you're going to be able to find the weekend forecast coming up at the website, and then this evening we'll have just for fun Can-Sip Saturday looking at the next 6 months weather. Tomorrow it's the NAO forecast, North Atlantic Oscillation forecast for the winter of 2016-2017, so that's going to be very, very interesting. Come back to that tomorrow. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.